We have Viertelstunden. Un peu plus. Okay. Thank you very much. You too. Welcome to the podium. Maybe you can present yourself.
I'm Karin Standler from Vienna. I'm a landscape architect and I was on the board of the jury, and I'm very glad that we did a good work. It was really amazing, your presentations, and I'm very, very happy because we don't know even, we see the project and we don't know what it's really behind, and have we seen all, and did we do the job good? And it was really amazing, your presentation and your as well, because from the view of the jury, it was very, for us, we were in one opinion. And we thought these two projects show really how to treat a site and to work with a site, and not to add always things to a site. And these were just the two projects without swimming pools. And we appreciate very much this approach and also this philosophy to work what we see, what we smell, what we feel for a site and for a place. And it is that every garden is a contribution to a garden culture. And even if we don't like every garden, it is a contribution. So my question a little bit to you, so what do you think, what is your contribution also to the garden culture? Because it's so important that we strengthen or that we raise the garden culture as a main issue in, also for us, of landscape architects, but also I think for the culture.
What do you think, Chloe? Okay, I mean, I think the whole name, right, garden, I mean, it's, in some ways it's misunderstood, and so we can be talking about something that's, 1,000 acres or 300 acres or, very intimate, but to me it's all about connecting people with nature, and then that makes them connect with themselves, makes them connect with the people around them. That's what a garden is to me, and I don't think that it's about a flower or a tree. We need all those elements, in those. So I think it's about changing the dialogue when we talk about it. Obviously, there was amazing, great gardens in our history that we can reference, but today the dialogue is very different. And I think also that it's important to remember that architecture can be part of the garden, because sometimes they like to place it outside of the architecture, but we can make their architecture part of it.
I think for me it's the same. I think effectively a garden or a landscape or a park, it all belongs to the same thing, because it's a conversation between, what we do is people interacting with the landscape, and so whether it's private or public, effectively it doesn't matter. It's about the relationship of you discovering yourself in the landscape, I think.
Right.
Yeah. I think they're, of course they're important. It's like a garden is just a private element, I guess, isn't it? A part of your exploration.
Right. A private experience for each person, right?
Yeah.
For me today, with these two winners, and the topic garden, I'm very happy because it's maybe for the student too, this emotional dimension or immaterial dimension. You speak very nice about the stones, but the more important in your work, and you of course, are the shadows, are the leaves who feel on the stones. It's not just poetic, it's really immaterial, and it is very difficult when we make a project or competition to speak about that. In France, I think there are competitions you can explain your project live and you can give this dimension. But in Germany, or I think in a lot of country, you have to give a nice text and a null panel and there's no chance to speak or to drawing the immaterial dimension, very important. And I like very your sketches for you're cutting it.
Same, yeah, it's nice.
Adapt to all the different land. I'm very impressed.
I think what's important is exactly what you were saying, that
Microphone.
Oh, sorry.
There's one on the table.
Interaction. Basically, the way you work in the landscape is a response to the landscape you're working. I think that's really key when you're talking about drawing lines in the landscape. That's really important, is understanding how humans have worked in the landscape. That's why I love studying agricultural landscapes, even for a private garden, and it's all relevant. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think the same exactly as you.
Yeah.
Maybe I ask now if there are questions, of course, to the two winners.
I have two questions. One is, Mr. Cohen, do you do town plannings as well? Because I understand your attitude to landscape, and if there is a one house on its own, it's all right. But if you have a number of houses, which maybe they are not in a good position from each other, so I wonder how you would do a town planning. And to the lady, I have another question. I admire your drawings, especially the freehand drawings, and this is a very technical question. I wonder how the trees on your roofs at the beginning, how do they grow? Because there are so small places among them, beside them, that I wonder if they can grow, because you love trees, as I see.
We've been doing really large-scale urban planning, town planning projects in the Middle East, and 3 big ones in the U.S. right now. And in a way, the scale is overwhelming for some of the younger people in our office, and I actually believe that these, different than a town planning question, but these large design projects are just a bunch of small projects put together, but you have to have a grounding principle to bring them all together, but you do them one at a time. But for the town planning, for what we're doing, rewriting zoning codes, and we actually have been studying zoning codes for 20 years and what we believe is wrong with them. It's still the same belief that you can't figure that out in your office by studying maps, that you have to spend meaningful time in a city and create a code that's going to make the public realm come to life, right? So in Riyadh, we're writing mini codes to completely change the way people use streets and sidewalks and parks. So, it's the same research-based, context-based. What are it's, how could we get people to be more social and public? So it's the same.
Yeah, so that roof garden, it's a really interesting project for us because it's very technical. So those trees, basically the top layer is a suspended slab, and underneath that we have a huge planting zone. So yeah, it's very, very technical, but there's definitely enough space for the trees, but it also comes with a species of trees which we've chosen, which is a very resilient tree which grows very fast, because again, don't forget, in Africa there's no nurseries, we can't go and buy trees, but this is a public space and it needs to look good straight away. So again, we've chosen a fast-growing tropical species that we've grown on for 2 years. So already the trees are 3 meters tall, which is amazing for Africa because it just doesn't exist. But yeah, it's all the planting happens underneath.
The other thing I should have said is the systems and the sustainability are kind of driving our research too in the cities. So in the Middle East, we're doing so much research on water. And, everybody's putting water down their sinks every day and goes through the pipes right underneath where we're all walking and into some system. And so at the core of everything we're doing there is starting with water. How are we going to get that water? How are we going to bring it up? How are we going to reuse it? How are we going to celebrate it? And so the whole system study, which is no different than, this reason I say it's the same, even when you're working on a small site, we're studying the systems, but they're such larger systems, within a city. It's so fun.
Hi, this is GV. I am a landscape architect from United States, but I also right now doing research in University of Cologne and also work for a nonprofit in Bonn. So thank you so much for the great presentation, for the beautiful garden space. When you see this bomb-proof wall that gives a notch for a tree, and this path that go through, I think, Walker family that still, preserve some of the shrubs and vegetation, you could have avoided, but you don't. You look right into it and have contrast and show it, as well as Sean's presentation of how you lead people to look at a private estate landscape around it. I think these are all great moments that make it really memorable by contrast, by not mimicking nature, by realize the relationship between us and nature. But at the same time, that has a certain kind of way that we alienate ourselves from that straight lines, a simplified geography belong to us versus something more organic is other. I wonder, especially in the age of Anthropocene, that nothing is really pure nature, and all kind of naturalistic landscape is derived from a certain kind of land management or certain influence of land use. How would those lines draw between us and nature evolve but still pronounced?
I'm not sure I understand the last piece of that question, which was, you led up to it really eloquently, but just repeat the last sentence, the essence of it. Do you have it, Chloe?
I think my understanding is you're saying that basically there's so many of us in the world and every landscape is so manipulated by humans in one form or another, so therefore does it really work us looking at this idea of the drawing the line which is geometric, which is always man's way of thinking, we're mathematical beings effectively, against nature, which is always something that you cannot calculate or you don't know how it's going to develop. And my question is nature is always going to take over. It doesn't matter how ancient a landscape is or how strong the intervention of man is, you're always going to get a blade of grass that's going to come through a pavement, or you're always going to have that element which nature is going to take over. And I think that's what's so fascinating about working in cities, for example, where it's very much, it's totally human, everything about it, and it's interesting to see how nature breaks in effectively. So I think you're always going to have the line of nature and you're always going to have the line of man, because nature happens and we can't control it. So
it's a beautiful way of describing it. When nature happens over geometrical lines, to me, it's just more honest. I can't say that I haven't been to any, curvilinear landscapes that I love, because I've been to a couple. But for me, most of the times I don't, because I just feel like it doesn't quite get to the essence of. There's something. I don't want to be rude, but for me, I don't relate to it. It feels like you're trying to copy something that is so powerful. There's nothing more powerful than nature and Mother Earth. And so I just like to plant her seeds and let them come up and be very honest about all the other lines that we draw.
Yeah, because if you try and copy nature, it's always going to feel contrived, I think. Because nature always does it much better than you do. So there's no point even trying, I guess.
Well put. Break time?
We are exactly at time, maybe. It's perfect to finish.
Yeah, right.
To Shane, excuse my bluntness maybe, but when you're working on like such a large-scale garden project where this huge peninsula, which is belongs to this one person, do you feel at some point like a sense of like injustice? Like, I know it's not
Yes.
Landscape architecture is a business, and you don't get to choose the form of the project, really.
Yes, I mean,
how do you deal with that?
I mean, we deal with it by trying to give back in a lot of other projects, right? I mean, it's a business. There's people that are attracted to our work, that invite us to work, that have a lot of money, and so I look at it as experimentation. You know, they're hiring us to create something that's inspiring to them and their family and friends. In this particular case, you have something where they're interested in opening it up to the public. So you know, they didn't think they would. That's the result of that. I guess I don't dwell on that. I mean, right now our firm's focus, the project's got to be really sweet, private, for us to do it right now. Where we feel like we can do something, we could experiment in new ways, and we could introduce new ideas. Whereas with public work that's open to everybody, it definitely feels, you know, way more meaningful. That said, I just learned so much working with a handful of architects on these private projects in the beginning about scale and materiality and repetition, that I don't think we would have had that sort of exploration in the public realm in the beginning. So there was a whole lot of lessons that are allowing us to bring cool ideas to the public now. So, but we definitely try to give back. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours I've given away this year on public projects and public meetings, trying to bring this new riverfront park to the kind of disadvantaged part of Minneapolis. And I love doing it. I'm happy to do it.
Thank you for your two beautiful presentation, very inspiring and sensible. Just one remark. I fully agree on not mimicking nature, as you said, but you use a straight line. You use straight lines, but you know, Chloe showed us his beautiful circle in the grass.
Yes.
So that means that you can not mimic nature with different. It's not an obligation to make straight lines.
No.
You may succeed with. I say that for.
Right.
You succeed through the forest. But the powerfulness of the curve and the relating to the in the local people, houses, and so there is a lot of this opposition with nature. There is no straight line in nature. I just wonder, if you have clouds with the sun behind and you have the ray of light, so it does not go like this. Right. Not curve, or the rain, the rideau. So there are many straight lines in nature.
Definitely.
And many curves in not mimicking nature. So you have the choice, and it's rather the intensity or the subtlety. When you are inside your forest, it's very nice to make this straight line. And when you are in these large plains of herbs, this idea of a circle, which is a kind of spotting with an intensity, both you share what I also share. It's a kind of minimalism, if you like, or a kind of intensity with the economy of means.
Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Let me just use this as a moment to compliment that circle. That very pure geometry sitting in the middle of a very powerful landscape, right? That is geometry, that pure circle, and it's powerful, right? So I love that, and serpentine, very intentional serpentine lines. I think can be very powerful, very archetypal. Right. Yeah, I know you can just fracture it like light, right? But I love that.
I think it's important to understand the purpose of what you're doing. With your project, it was a journey, it's a movement. Same with our Salam house, we're moving from one place to another, it's a path. And therefore, if we did a path that was like this, you wouldn't have a sense of the destination. The hint of what's coming next is what encourages you to keep going. And that's why a line as a journey works very beautifully in a landscape. The Savannah Circle is a place to be, to stop. And it's a full stop.
Yeah, a few English gardeners have succeeded in making some decent English park with the
For sure. Yeah.
I'm quite happy that we are introducing this notion of discussing about gardens in our profession again, because I feel that there lately is a tendency of talking about green infrastructure, performative landscapes, all these kind of notions, and it sometimes feel that we are not really then at the core of the cultural dimension of really what we are doing. Mm-hmm. And what I found so beautiful also about your presentations was how you really relate back to the essence of what is the meaning of a landscape, how it feels, how our senses and how our memories relate to it. And also looking at the crafts of local people, really looking at the beauty of individual plants. It's something that sometimes, although it seems so natural to our profession, we forget really to put it at the front of our profession. And therefore I was so happy to have that here today, that it's not only about performance and about like this kind of notions that we try, that we need to justify our profession for, but that we are really coming back to the essence of it. And I wonder, because your offices feel like it's at the core of also your practice, that you feel you're being also acknowledged for that as a landscape architect. And I think also through promoting it with this prize, that we put that also more to the outfront again, that gardens are not about swimming pools and these kind of manufactured landscapes, but it's what you presented here today. So I think that's something that is a strong message and a story to be told by our profession.
I don't know why everyone hates swimming pools. I love swimming.
I think it was a perfect final save, and I forgot to thank the Gastgeberin.
Yeah.
The Gastgeber is a university. It's of course a big chance that people can leave these two winners and the next after the lunch. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.